Hi, so my name is Scarlett, and I've been vegan a little over 3 years now, November 2017. Initially, I went vegan because I made the connection to my love of animals. I loved animals for my whole life, had all types of animals, dogs, cats, bunnies, birds, and been eating meat growing up in that traditional sense, and society tells us we need meat for protein. And I watched What the Health. That was the initial documentary on Netflix that I watched. I was listening to a podcast, a Yoga Girl podcast. I'm not sure if you heard of her. And she had James Aspey on. He's a pretty big vegan activist for years now, and he recommended it. And ever since then, I did my research and I looked at all the factors of being vegan and all the benefits, and most of it was for the animals. We have to fight for the animals and fight for their justice because they are have no justice, and we really have to fight for them. And that's my main point of being vegan, and many others, along with the environment and your health. So being vegan is the way to be.
You know, it took real animals to make that jacket. They ended their lives.
I'm vegan like 2 years ago. Honestly, initially, I really just wanted to benefit my overall health. I was in a class and my teacher played this documentary about the slaughtering of animals and how they're treated in the meat industry. And it was disgusting, and to realize all of the emotions that the animals were feeling prior to moments before their death, you are ingesting those emotions of fear and trauma into your own body. And it just lowers your vibration, and it's not good for your overall health. Besides that, dairy and all that, the mucus leads to all types of diseases. Mucus is the most leading cause to any type of disease that you could ever get. So honestly, it's just about bettering your health and feeling better overall. You need to eat health, you know what I mean? To avoid any type of diseases and just live longer. My cousin, she's vegan, and she gives me a lot of tips too, so it was easier for me. Yeah, when you really get into it, you realize it's not hard. Instead of perceiving it as you taking away things, just figure you're adding more fruits, more vegetables, and you feel better overall. I grew up with animals all my life: rabbits, dogs, turtles, all of that. So it's always been a part of me.
I guess it was about 7 years ago, and I decided to take a weekend getaway vacation to a bed and breakfast up in the Catskill Animal Sanctuary. I did not know anything about veganism. I had no interest in veganism whatsoever, but I did love animals. I always knew I loved animals. So I spent this lovely weekend at the bed and breakfast at Catskill Animal Sanctuary, and they gave me a tour where they introduced me to all the animals, and they explained their history and their story about how they ended up at a sanctuary. When I started hearing these stories and learning about what takes place on a factory farm, that was it. I became more interested, and I realized that just being pescatarian, I thought eating dairy products was fine because it wasn't killing the cow. I didn't know any better. But when I learned about what takes place on a factory farm and what's involved with getting dairy products, milking cows, and everything, it's horrific. It's horrible. And there was no way did I ever want to be a part of that or support that industry ever again. In the following months from that, I visited another sanctuary and then another sanctuary, and I did some research. I started looking things up and watching some movies and reading things online. The more I learned about factory farming, I knew I couldn't support the industry anymore. So I did some investigation about being vegan and what would be a healthy way to be vegan. You do have to start to get to know a little bit about nutrition and just switching to fruits and vegetables and plant-based sources of protein and things like that. And it was very easy for me from there. I love the food anyway. It wasn't a big deal. And I love it now. Like I regret that I didn't do this sooner. I love being vegan. The food is fantastic. And nowadays, oh my God, it's come such a long way. You know, I think about the pioneers who didn't have all these fabulous brands of vegan cheese and other products that we have now, convenience food and everything. They really, the grassroots of it. I love the food. I love to cook. I've become creative with it, and it's fun, it's innovative, and the food is delicious, and I'm never hungry, and I love all my food.
I'm thinking about going vegan because of the industry of meat and animal abuse and the injustice of animals. I'm thinking about it. Also for sea life. Also for the sea life.
Yo.
It was 7 years ago when I first went to the sanctuary. I didn't go cold turkey like the very next day I was vegan, but it was the very next day is when I started doing some investigation and started learning more about it. And then I visited another sanctuary and I met these animals. I met cows and pigs and goats. And I knew there was no way would I ever want to support any industry that caused them any harm. I mean, I just love them. They're sentient, feeling beings, and no different than my cats, who I love, and other, you know, I love dogs. I love all animals. I don't know how you could not, really. I don't know how you could ever want to cause pain to them. So I did not want to contribute to that. So after a few weeks of just doing some research, I just started swapping out the dairy products I was eating, and I stopped eating eggs. It was really no big deal to me because I never went hungry. There was always tons of delicious vegan food around. For me, it was an easy call once I got the knowledge, once my eyes were open to what actually happened. Honestly, before those first tours at the animal sanctuary, I had no idea what took place on a factory farm. No clue whatsoever. I didn't know anything about the dairy industry. I didn't know anything about the egg industry. Never thought about it. But then once your eyes are open, I can't pretend I don't know what I now know. I can't just say, I don't want to look at that, I don't want to think about it because I want this item. It's ridiculous to me. It's like I know what I know now. I can't pretend I don't know for the sake of a sandwich.
Maybe I'll bounce back home and work on that. I asked her like a couple of times.
I had a very good conversation with a couple. You know, like it's very common that people say like, oh, but humane is slaughtered. And I was like, okay, how are you gonna kill someone in a humane way? And she was like, I don't know, like, I don't have an answer for that. And I was like, yeah, exactly, because animals, they wanna live. You can't kill someone who doesn't wanna die. That's it, it's that simple. So their purpose, like the animal purpose in life is just being here with us, like just living, like the same right that you have, that I have, they have it too. So why we think like we are better and we are superior to kill them? So they were like, oh yeah, you know, I'm gonna look for it. I'm gonna keep reading. And she had like a lot of resources and documentaries and everything. So that was a very good conversation. And I had another one with people from, I think they were from Colombia. And this guy was like, oh my God, like looking at this, like I'm feeling so sick. I don't want to eat right now. And I was like, yeah, exactly. Because if you can see like the process of your food, how are you gonna eat it? You know, like it's completely different when you go and pick up, like, I don't know, strawberries, apples, pears, whatever you want. But you are not gonna go to a slaughterhouse and see how your steak is prepared, right? Like how that steak is gonna be on your plate. You can see it because like just the process of that make you sick and make you lose your appetite. That's it. So how is it gonna be good for you? Like this is an injustice. This is bad. This is wrong. So there's not a right way to do something wrong. That's it. And he said like, yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna read about it. I have some resources here and everything. So that was a very good conversation too. Very happy, yeah.
Are raised and are treated, as you can see here, these are baby pigs that are being abused and exploited, and basically what happens to them is they are not able to move in the space that they have. They're not able to be with their mothers. The same thing happens to the baby cows. We have the chickens in this here. It happens with all animal species when they're talking about fish. Because they no longer providing access to information. So what we have here, what we say is that
Mom used to make two dinners, two different types of dinner every night.
I don't remember what I was saying.
I forgot I was going to say.
My name is Marissa Shaw. I first went plant-based because my family has a history of very high cholesterol and I couldn't get rid of it. So logically I said, get rid of the cholesterol, so let's get rid of all the animal products and see what happens. And it was fabulous. It was so fantastic that I started reading a little more about where my food came from. And then the big enlightenment moment came, which was make the connection, right? So that's when I decided to step forward and give myself into the vegan life. I've been doing it since and I have no regrets and I love it. And my conscience is clean, just like my body's clean. It was 8 years ago. It was a very long journey, but I'm glad that it happened now than never. I'm here today for the activation because I think it's important to spread the news to people and to educate people on all the other alternatives that they may find that they don't have that is plant-based. And also in doing that, they're benefiting not only their bodies but helping the animals and stopping the animal farming. We have to stop that because there's so many better alternatives in this age. And let's think about sustainability a little more. Let's think about our bodies a little more. Let's think about harmonizing ourselves with the other creatures that we share this planet with.
I can already tell this is going to make me angry.
We're ready for opening statements. Mr. McKenna?
If it please the court, Your Honor, I can't read this out loud. I can't. It disgusts me. It's all smoke and mirrors.
This wasn't about solving a crime. This was about sending a message that you better shut up.
You have to have a degree of arrogance to think you can take on multinational corporations and win.
Corporations get to do what they want. We challenged the right of this corporation to exist.
They speak in a language of money. They needs to be targeted financially.
We come with a new philosophy. We hold the line. We will not compromise. We will not apologize, and we will not relent.
Been vegan for 8 months. I became vegan because I didn't know how much I was contributing to animal exploitation and how much every dollar I spent was going towards harming animals, whether in a factory farm or for cosmetics or things like that. And I just didn't want to contribute to that anymore. And then I became an activist as well because I felt like other people needed to know the truth about what we're doing to animals. It's been 8 months. I have never felt better. I have had so many benefits of going vegan, high energy, less lethargic, but also just eating such great food, like just getting everything that I need from fruits and vegetables. Lentils, I love couscous, barley, quinoa, whether it's celery root or radishes or you name it. I like all vegetables. I'm not raw, I cook. I do eat some processed vegan foods that are like cheeses and things like that, but I've been trying to wean out the processed foods as well. There's so many vegan recipes online. There's so many, like everywhere you look, there's vegan recipes. People are trying vegan recipes who aren't even vegan and are getting better results with those products because they're not so harmful and filled with chemicals.
What about the twin sisters? Amber, are they coming?
I've been vegan for 5 years, but I haven't eaten any animal meat in about 10 years. The reason I did it was just because I didn't want to contribute to any animal cruelty. That's why I'm vegan and that's why I've stayed vegan. You know who I watched a lot? Gary Yourofsky. He's probably my favorite activist, and if you want kind of a streamlined version of why you should be vegan, Gary Yourofsky I think is the best person to watch. This would be my first time doing activism. I just thought I would get into it. I just moved to New York recently, so I thought it would be good to dip my toes into some activism since I've just been vegan, wanted to do a little bit more. There's so many good movies. I think Earthlings is the one that inspired me the most for sure, but early on when I first became vegetarian, Food Inc. was really good to watch too if you want to look at the animal cruelty within animal agriculture.
I've been vegan for just about a year. And my journey started in college when I was exposed to the environmental impacts of animal agriculture. And as someone who considered myself to be an environmentalist at the time, I started to realize that I was becoming a bit of a hypocrite by contributing to something that was so destructive to the environment while claiming to be an environmentalist. And after that, I learned about all of the catastrophic health impacts that you get from eating the bodies of dead beings. And then I learned about why it's so unethical and immoral to treat these living beings as something as just profit and food. And I also realized a few months after going vegan at the end of last year that just my own choices aren't enough to make a difference in the world, and I have to try and convey this idea to other people, because especially when I've learned how it takes so much undercover investigation to uncover animal agriculture, and so many people are just not exposed enough to it. And so it feels like a moral imperative or an obligation to get out and spend my time explaining to others why we need to make a change. This is the Vegan Activist Alliance, where we show footage from Dominion, which is a documentary undercover investigation from Australia from, I believe, 2018, where they got footage from various industries and the horrific acts of cruelty they do to animals. And we are talking to bystanders here in Washington Square Park about why they can make a change in their life to have more just decisions and be more compassionate towards animals.
I was born and brought up a vegetarian. I've never really tasted meat in my life ever, but there were a lot of my friends and family who transitioned to eating meat. I could never get myself to because there was always this thing that this was once like a living thing, so I couldn't. But then as I began rescuing animals, I had tried to get a bull rescued by an animal organization back in India, and that's when I was speaking to the owner, and she informed me about, this bull would not be on the streets injured if not for dairy, and that's when I learned about the horrors of dairy. That's when I decided to go vegan. It was hard. I think for the first 2-3 years, I want to say I was 99% vegan. Like I would see a chocolate pastry and I would be like, okay, just once. And then, I made a rule that once a month I would let myself try something that I don't normally get, like a chocolate pastry or something like that. But then over time, as I read more and more, it just didn't seem justified. And now I have been vegan for 3 years, like completely vegan. And then seeing me, my husband couldn't get himself to eat eggs or milk, so he became vegan too, and now he is with me here voicing our feelings for the animals and trying to get others to get on the same journey. So that's when there's SPCA in India, and the owner there, she kind of helped me understand. She was actually having tea with milk that time, and she was talking about how guilty she feels because India did not have any non-dairy options back then. I'm talking about 6 years back. And she was like, I literally consume just 2 spoons of milk every day and I die of guilt. And that intrigued me. I'm like, why milk? There's nothing cruel in it. We're not killing anyone. And then, she told me about the horrors of dairy. But I think it hit really hard when I was actually traveling for work to San Francisco, and there on the outskirts I was crossing through like a dairy farm, and I could hear little calves and wheelhouses crying on one side and the mother cows crying on the other side. I think that was when I was like, I can't anymore. So that probably seeing or hearing it, experiencing it firsthand was it got me to like take action.
I went vegan in February of 2019. I actually went at first for health because I was inspired by somebody that I watched on YouTube. And so I was eating plant-based for 2 months, and then on my newsfeed on YouTube, I came across a TED Talk, and I was scrolling on YouTube one day, and I came across this video called Every Argument Against Veganism. It was a TED Talk, and I was like, oh, I'm eating vegan. I'm interested in hearing this. And it completely changed my life. I started watching more of Earthling Ed's videos. I started learning about animal rights. I had no idea that dairy was cruel. And I was compelled immediately to start activism a couple months after that. I was just on a road trip with my boyfriend across the country. We were living in his car, and we had a few conversations with people about veganism. We went hiking and we held signs. We tried to do as much outreach as we could.
Well, I'm vegan because I respect life, I respect the energy. I believe every single animal, it has feelings, it has their own lives, they have their own problems, and I don't want to like abuse all these species because that's what we are, and we are just another species. Just we're trying to get control of everything, but that's not the intelligent way. We need to change, and we need to go to another way to understand that we are all one, and we are It's just love. That's all.
Quack, quack.